Welcome to another edition of the Purple-Painted Roundtable podcast brought to you on the Charm City Birdwatch Network. I'm your host, Jake McDonnell. And before we get started, I wanted to thank everybody that tuned in to my podcast call-in with Baltimore Ravens staff writer Ryan Make the other day. We reached 102 downloads, and that's really good for me. Might not sound like a lot, but to me it is a lot, so I really do appreciate everybody that tuned into that. And there's not only that podcast, I had John Eisenberg on as well recently. So for all things Charm City Birdwatch related, follow us at Charm City BW on Twitter, Facebook.com/CharmCityBirdwatch, and CharmCityBirdwatch.com, and you're listening to this on either iTunes or SoundCloud. I'm going to bring in everybody here on the Ebony Bird Purple-Painted Roundtable podcast, brought to you not only by us, but by Fansided as well. All of our handles, of course, EbonyBird.com, Ebony_Bird on Twitter, and of course our two site experts, Joe Schiller and Chris Schisler. Chris is Footballman58 on Twitter, and Joe is Joe Schiller with two R's. I am Jay McDonnell95 on Twitter. And fellas, let's get started with this episode. You know, we got a 23-3 win over the Washington Redskins for the Ravens to open up the preseason. I guess we'll just kind of go around and kind of give our thoughts, our top takeaways. We're going to do a little segment here on who impressed and who did not. So Chris, we'll go to you first. So just kind of give us, your synopsis of the game, and then followed by any players that, you noticed, and then some that you didn't notice, and then we'll kind of go to Joe and just kind of go around.
Perfect. I'm jacked up because the offense didn't have Jeremy Maclin, Rashad Perryman, Mike Wallace, Alex Lewis, who's now out for the year. We didn't have anybody on our offense. We didn't have Ben Watson. We didn't have Danny Woodhead. We didn't have anybody on our offense, and it exceeded my expectations. Was it good? No, it wasn't good, but it exceeded my expectations. If our offense is just average, we can win a Super Bowl, and our starting offense without all our starters was mediocre. I'm fine with that. I didn't expect anything. So when people are freaking out, oh, Ryan Mallett didn't do well enough, blah, I'm just really thinking I'm ecstatic because the defense looks sharp. Tyus Bowser looked amazing, by the way. Brent Urban played out of his mind. Jalen Hill, as a rookie, coming in and getting an interception, playing tight coverage. And what was impressive about Jalen Hill was that Jalen Hill played with great technique. And you know what? It wasn't against the greatest competition. Kirk Cousins wasn't in there. Redskins didn't have their full flight of crew. But I was really impressed with Jalen Hill. I'm just impressed, man. They dominated a other NFL team throughout their entire depth chart, and the offense didn't do much. So I'm just excited, man.
Kind of what we expected. The offense kind of came out and we're stagnant, but that's what you get when you have Ryan Mallett and you're missing all your wide receivers. Defense came out, was good on paper, and they were even better on the field. I think every play someone was in the backfield. It was either Michael Pierce or Brent Urban or someone else. And like Chris said, Tyus Bowser looked really great. Offensive-wise, the run game was good. I thought Gazelle was good. West looked really good. Looks like he'll be the starting back for the season, really wants to take over that starting role. I'm interested to see the battle between Gazelle and Buck Allen for the third running back spot. I think that's going to heat up more as we go into tomorrow night. Wide receiver-wise, Tim White was obviously the best wide receiver out there, but he's out with the injury now. Defensive-wise, like Chris said, Brent Urban was incredible. Entering his final rookie contract, it's like a Paul Kruger situation all over again. He's had a bunch of injuries, hasn't been able to be on the field, but now when he is, he's really dominating out there. And like 6'7", he is just absolutely huge out there, just dominating people. And with him and Pierce and Williams on the front of the line, they're going to be suffocating starting offensive linemen and running backs. It's going to be incredible to watch. A lot of the undrafted rookies look good. Jalen Hill, like Chris said, looked amazing. Like you said, not great competition, but there's still an open spot for the slot corner, so it'll be interesting to see how he plays out. But overall, obviously, we came in thinking the defense was going to show up, and they did, and the offense was stagnant. But, that's what you expect when you're missing Joe Flacco and a lot of your offensive weapons right now.
Yeah, you guys kind of hit the nail on the head. We talk about Jalen Hill and Tim White looking so good, two undrafted guys, and obviously the Tim White news we'll get to in a little bit with him being out for the season. I thought the third-string quarterback, Josh Woodrum, looked really impressive. Of course, now he is listed on the depth chart. Dustin Vaughn has, of course, parted ways with the Ravens, and, of course, they brought in Thad Lewis. So I thought Woodrum looked really good. Well, it'll be interesting to see how he does tomorrow. Brett Urban looked great. Two guys that did not particularly look well. I didn't think Mallett looked good, and I actually think that the Thad Lewis signing could maybe impact Mallett to push him a little bit harder, because I think if we see something similar to what we saw last week, tomorrow night, and the week after, I wouldn't be shocked to see them, once Thad Lewis, gets the playbook going, I wouldn't be shocked if they held on to him. And then somebody else that really was kind of quiet was Quincy Adeboyejo. Undrafted rookies, you can never tell because of, we hear about how well they do in practice, and then he didn't really do much in the game. But I don't really think wasn't really out there at the beginning of the game. They didn't really bring him in until about the second half, so I don't know how many opportunities he got. But I think that's something to keep an eye on, because a lot of people are talking about him making the team, and if he doesn't do anything in the games, he's not going to do it. So meanwhile, let's go on to our next topic here. We want to talk about the Alex Lewis and Tim White injuries, because we were just talking about that a minute ago during the game, or during the previous segment. Lewis, as Chris, one of you alluded to, didn't play in the game, and then it was later revealed that he had a shoulder issue that's going to end his season. He's going to have to get a surgery for that. And then Tim White ended up tearing some ligaments in his thumb. He caught a touchdown pass, so it was really unfortunate to see him go down, because he was also getting reps in at returner, and he could have honestly grabbed one of those last spots. A couple experts, media members said that he was a lock, not a lock, but they had him as a lock to make their custom 53-man rosters before it's revealed. Both these injuries, are disappointing. The Alex Lewis one's particularly devastating. It's substantial. There's already been a lot of issues on the offensive line. They lost, Rick Wagner in free agency. John Urschel retired. Ronnie Stanley's not playing right now. They had to bring in, Austin Howard out of free agency to kind of fill a void. They lost their 4th-round pick, Nico Siragusa, to his knee basically fell off because of all the ligaments he teared. So really, that's a big bummer. And now, there's rumors swirling around that the Ravens are, trying to bring Jeremy Zuttah in. I saw on Twitter earlier that they are close to finalizing a deal. I didn't see that on a lot of big name media members tweeting out. Then I did not see his tweet, so that's official, not official like ink on paper, but it is now that right. And because Mike Preston's tweeting about it, that means it definitely is something to keep an eye on, not just tonight but tomorrow as well. I'll let you guys go now. I've kind of been rambling on a little bit, but I was just trying to say how the Alex Lewis injury is particularly devastating to a guy who has struggled with injuries really the first 2 seasons of his career now. Joe, we'll go to you first for this one.
Yeah, that's pretty devastating. Lewis was out for, I think it was like 5 or 6 games last season with the ankle and some problems before, and he still ended up being ranked, I think, one of the best offensive rookie guards for the season. So that's particularly bad that he's out. Going to Tim White, I saw a lot when he got injured that a lot of people said that the Ravens were just trying to stash him on IR, which I thought was a load of bull. I don't think they would have done something like that. Obviously, they do now that he's hurt, but with people were saying the thumb injuries aren't such a big deal. Well, when you're a wide receiver, when you tear ligaments in your thumb, the main goal of your position is to catch the football. He can't do that. Obviously, he's not going to be able to play. So that's a big blow because, like you said, I thought he could be one of the locks for maybe the 5th or 6th spot on there. But the Alex Lewis one just really hurts. I guess that pushes James Hurst into the left guard position right now. Take what you will with that. But, this was not the plan, obviously, coming into the offseason. And while the Zuttah news might be, I guess some people might be confident now, I really hope he doesn't come back because I like Jensen at center, and I don't think Zuttah's any better. If the Ravens traded away Zuttah in the first place, and he was a 3rd stringer on the depth chart for the 49ers, and they cut him, I just can't see him being a starter, and I wouldn't feel very confident about it. So,
well, first off, I want to say I agree with everything Joe just said about Jeremy Zuttah. Jeremy Zuttah is a guy who didn't make with San Francisco. San Francisco not keeping him is a big deal. They gave away a 6th-round draft pick to get him, and then they cut him. So they gave up some capital. Not a lot, but 6th-rounders, Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. You never know when you're going to hit on one. So that's a big deal to me that he didn't make it with the 49ers. You don't go to the dumpster when you're hungry. You go to a restaurant. I have a real problem bringing Zuttah back because he didn't play well last year and he got cut by the 49ers. But James Hurst at left guard is the most sensible place for Hurst. He struggles with speed on the outside. Ronnie Stanley doesn't need as much help. Now, I'm a little worried about Ronnie Stanley being a little banged up and not practicing. That scares me, but Ronnie Stanley, if he's good to go, which I assume he would be, doesn't need as much help as Austin Howard would at right tackle. And Marshall Yonda is going to, if you keep Marshall Yonda at right guard, is going to make Austin Howard's life a lot easier. So the offensive line isn't in full swing panic. It's not great, but I really like what I saw from Jensen. Jensen was playing on Thursday, was playing with Jermaine Illuminor, a very fresh football player from Texas A&M, who the game's a little fast for, and Matt Skura. And you play next to those two, and you play pretty well. I'm excited about Ryan Jensen. The Tim White injury really is a bummer, but it's also a good thing for Keenan Reynolds. Keenan Reynolds now has a more straightforward shot to making the team, because if it came down between Keenan Reynolds and Tim White was probably going to make it because he's already making plays at wide receiver. Keenan Reynolds had a 46-yard punt return. That was a start for him. We need to see him make plays as a punt return, as a receiver instead of a punt returner. But if we get punt returns from Keenan Reynolds every week, he might be viewed as a Tyreek Hill kind of player, a secret weapon, and then you could save Michael Campanaro for the offense, and maybe he won't get hurt. It's a maybe, but still, I'm really excited about Keenan Reynolds' chance of making the team. So while I'm disappointed about Tim White, I have a little solace in the fact that Keenan Reynolds has a better chance of making the team. One person's misery is another person's success. And with Alex Lewis, that, people are saying, he might not have been a starter or he wasn't that good. No, he was that good. Alex Lewis is a great football player. I think anytime something like this happens, you try to make it sound like it didn't happen, or it wasn't that big of a deal. No, it's a big deal. Alex Lewis is a big deal. I think the Ravens can be fine, but it's not a given.
Well, it definitely sounds like you guys are a lot more confident than I am in the offensive line. The Alex Lewis injury is really devastating, for a team that's trying to rejuvenate their run game and have another offensive lineman go down. They've lost 3 since the start of training camp now, and this was already a thin group to begin with. And now that Ronnie Stanley's not going to suit up tomorrow, he's officially out. We still don't know what his injury is because the Ravens won't tell us. So officially,
probably just caution though.
Could you say the same thing about Lewis though? They didn't really say much, and look what happened to him.
That's fair. And Rashad Perryman had a knee bruise.
I don't know.
It is worrisome.
Me a kind of bad feeling about Stanley. Said he was dealing with camp problems. Like, what the hell does that mean?
Well, if Stanley's done, we're done. If Stanley's done, that might be the kill shot. I'm hoping it's not a big deal.
So with Stanley out, we're looking at, I'm assuming, Hurst, Illuminor, Jensen, Yonda, and Howard as the offensive line tomorrow. That left side right there is, I'm glad it's not a regular season game because that left side is not going to be pretty tomorrow night if Hurst and Illuminor are indeed starting on the offensive line. And I do think if they bring in Jeremy Zuttah, I don't know if they did bring him in, it might just be specifically for a depth purpose, just to have another body in there because they've lost 3. But I do think whether they bring him in or not, they need to trade for another offensive lineman. I look at the defensive line as probably one of the likely scenarios where they trade like maybe a Carl Davis to get a piece there to have, because they need depth on the offensive line. It's simple as that. You can't go into the season with late round draft picks and undrafted guys starting or being right on the brink of the backup and then have nothing but undrafted rookies on your bench. You need to have depth, guys with experience. So I think the Ravens are in line for another trade before the regular season starts on the offensive line. I hope they do. That's because, as an offense that's trying to get the run game back, has Marty Warnaweg as our offensive coordinator, and Joe Flacco's back has bothered him, and he hasn't even practiced in training camp yet. I'm very worried about the offensive line, and I have my panic button. I haven't hit it yet, but if Stanley's out, I'm banging it full swing.
I'm with you. It's the kill shot.
Just imagine Hurst and, Illuminor going against Ndamukong Suh and Cameron Jordan if they even play him tomorrow. Oh, my God, that's going to be so bad.
Don't look for much in the offense, but here's the thing. if Ronnie Stanley was hurt worse than they're saying, I have a feeling a move would be in the works other than Jeremy Lucha. That's my theory. That's why I'm not panicking yet.
Well, what I said earlier today was I think tomorrow's an audition for Henry and Carl Davis. I think if any two guys are going, it's them, because you've got Wormley and Rickard, the two rookies. Obviously, you're not going to probably get rid of them. So I think if anyone goes, like Jake said, it's got to be Davis or Henry, because they didn't even play much last year, and we saw how good the defense was.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I agree.
This is the Purple-Painted Roundtable podcast on the Charm City Birdwatch Network. I'm your host, Jake McDonnell, and our two site experts, Joe Schiller and Chris Schisler, are joining us today. Again, I'm Jay McDonnell95 on Twitter. Joe is Joe Schiller with 2 R's, and Chris is Footballman58. Moving on to our next topic, as we go into the offense still, we dig deeper. We want to talk about the projections for who is going to make the final cut for the wide receiver and running back positions. I myself have 4 running backs and 6 wideouts listed. We'll start with running backs for first. I have Woodhead, West, Allen, the 3 locks, I would say, and then I have Lorenzo Taliaferro. I mean, I don't have much confidence in him from an injury standpoint, and yes, he is definitely more of a power running back than a fullback, but what it comes down to me is how much Ricky Ortiz plays and impresses in the preseason. If he impresses and has a really solid camp, I could see them cutting ties with Taliaferro and then keeping Ortiz as their fullback. But the Ravens typically at first keep 3 running backs and a fullback, and those are the guys I have being that they've used draft picks on all these guys or spent money on them in free agency in Woodhead and West. So those are my 4. Chris, we'll go to you first. Who do you have in your final running back slots for the 53-man roster?
Well, my theory with Taliaferro is they have more invested in him than Ortiz, so Ortiz will be a practice squad guy that they can probably get away with keeping there until Taliaferro gets hurt. Taliaferro will be the fullback, in my opinion, and at running back, I think you have Terrence West, Buck Allen, who wasn't impressive on Thursday, and Danny Woodhead, obviously. I think if they keep 4, Mazzell has a chance, but I don't think they're going to keep 4 because when you have Taliaferro as your fullback, and that's who I think will win the job, he's expendable. You don't need a 4th running back. You already have one. Mazzell is really a guy who needs to break off 20-yard runs. He doesn't need 3.6 yards to carry, which he is averaging right now after one game. He needs 20-yard runs. He needs to average 4.5, something like that. He needs to make an impact in the passing game, and he needs to show that he can pass block, which in limited reps is a problem. I think Mazzell ends up not getting enough opportunities because I think he has more to prove than any of them. Buck Allen, you know very well, can at least be a receiving running back. Buck Allen and Danny Woodhead coming in, alternating as third down running backs. It also spares Woodhead for late in the season. So I like Buck Allen to make the team, and I like Taliaferro to be the fullback. Terrence West, obviously, is the main running back.
Yeah, I completely agree with you two on one condition. That's if Buck Allen can hold on to the football. Because we've seen in the past last year that fumbles were a problem, and when you get into John Harbaugh's doghouse, it's hard to get out. And, I mean, we've seen Allen get out of it, but he was a healthy scratch a couple times last season. And after his rookie year where he came in for Justin Forsett and looked really good, we didn't really see much of him at all last year. So I think if Allen can hold on to the ball, I think he's in. But if not, that's definitely a problem.
My question to you, Joe, is how much does Mazzell have to prove if Buck Allen has fumbling problems? How much? Because you at least know Buck Allen.
Right. I don't know. That's a really tough question because, I mean, we saw he had 15 carries, 51 yards, which, I mean, it's pretty good for a preseason game coming in behind. No, it's not bad. I think we just need to see more on the receiving side because I thought that was a big part of Allen's game, his rookie season, that really made him kind of different from the other starting running backs. And, like, he's definitely a better pass catching back than the West. So I think we need to see more from Mazzell on a, like, receiving standpoint. Because, I mean, obviously,
I agree.
The big knock against Mazzell is that he's too similar to Woodhead, which, I mean, if you think about it, makes sense. Like, they have Woodhead, who's going to be primarily the third down back catching the passes. But I think, like I said, I think if Mazzell is talented enough, I don't care how similar he is to Woodhead. I think you take him if Allen's not performing well. But I think this is a battle that's going to go down to the end of the preseason.
I agree with that completely, Joe.
And we'll move on now from the running backs to the wide receivers. I have 6 listed here. I have 3 either high draft picks or free agents. They came in, and then the other ones are either late round draft picks. Well, all of them late round draft picks, actually. So for the 6, I have Macklin, Wallace, and Perryman as the top 3. And then behind that, it's kind of spotty with the undrafted guys that came in this year, and they have a bunch of guys that have been lower on the depth chart or are undrafted coming in. But I have as the final 3, Chris Moore, who honestly has to prove himself, but the Ravens used a draft pick on him, so I can see them hanging on to him. Michael Campanaro, and then I have Keenan Reynolds making the squad. Not just because I'm a big Keenan Reynolds fan. I just think that the Tim White injury really opened up the door, as you guys alluded to him making his way onto the roster. So, Joe, we'll go over to you first. Who do you have? How many receivers do you have first? And then your list. And then, Chris, when Joe's done, we'll go to you.
Yeah, I had 7 before Tim White, so I think it's 6 now. I don't see it taking 7 now. I have exactly what you had. I wrote a 53-man roster prediction a couple of days ago, and that's exactly what I have on here. I don't know how I feel about Chris Moore. It's a little interesting that Bisciotti said he was the number 4 receiver before we even really saw a lot of him this offseason. Thought that was interesting. So you have to think he's there. And for Campanaro, they've invested so much in him that there's no way they're going to get rid of him. Like, he's been on injured reserve so many times, and they've kept bringing him back. And when on the field, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but, I mean, he's just like, it's like a glass body sometimes. Just the littlest things will make him shatter. But I think if on the field and healthy, he'll be definitely a reliable receiver. And I guess it's Quincy Adebojo and Keenan Reynolds. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting one because, like Chris said earlier, Keenan Reynolds has to prove he can be a wide receiver. He's not going to make the roster as just a returner. He's got to have some kind of receiving aspect to it. So I think that's going to be a big thing to watch tomorrow night.
Yeah, I see Jeremy Macklin, Mike Wallace, and Brashad Perryman being locks. Perryman's injury worries me. Campanaro, I think, is a guy they want to keep. I think Campanaro is kind of like Bigfoot. You see him so little, you're not actually sure he exists. So I like Michael Campanaro to make the team just because of the mythology, because when he's been in there, he's done incredible things as little as it's been. So Michael Campanaro to me is the 4th player on that list. And at 5, Quincy Adebojo, or whatever you call his name. Sorry, I still can't pronounce his name right. He's the guy because he has size in which other players don't have. We have our top receiver is 6 foot. Mike Wallace, I think, is 6 foot 2. Rashad Perriman's the only other guy with size. So I think Quincy has the advantage. And then I think you get in a battle after that, but I think Keenan Reynolds makes this team, and I really hope he does. I think Chris Matthews is cut. I mean, he made plays in the Super Bowl. How long can you hold on to that? It's kind of like when you do one good thing, and then that's what you're known for. You're just a one-hit wonder. So Chris Matthews hasn't done anything since then other than catching a pass in 2015 against the Steelers. So I would say if there was a case to make 7 wide receivers, you could make it this year. But I think to keep 6 and Keenan Reynolds was the last guy in.
And with that, we're going to move on to our game preview. Tomorrow night, the Ravens they're already in Miami. They landed earlier today, facing the Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium, taking place at 7 o'clock p.m. Jerry Sandusky and Brian Billick will be on the call on WBAL, on the radio, on television, and streaming on the Ravens website. Storylines, I mean, there's a lot of the same as we had last week. I expect Ryan Mallett to play around a half. I think they kind of have to do that with him expected to take the starting job if Flacco's not back at a reasonable time before the season begins. Thad Lewis, they just brought in the other day. I don't know if we're going to see him just from a standpoint if he might not be very comfortable with the playbook yet, but he does have 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and an 82.2 quarterback rating lifetime, whereas Mallett has a rating in the 60s. So take that with what you will. If the Ravens might want to do with him, but note on Lewis, he did have a significant injury last year and didn't play at all. He was on injured reserve for the 49ers all season. So I guess we'll kind of go do a little roundtable. Chris, we'll go to you first. What are you looking for tomorrow night against the Dolphins?
Offensive progress. I'm not looking for it to be pretty. I'm looking for the things that work to keep working. I'm looking for a plan on the offensive line. I want to see the semblance idea. I want to see what their thought is. Obviously, you're not going to have everybody in there. Stanley's not going to be in there. But I want to see who they like at what positions. I really want Ryan Jensen to stay at center because I was impressed on Thursday night. I didn't think I would be, and I want to keep being impressed with him. But defensively, I'm looking for interceptions off Jay Cutler because they're there for the taking. It's like Christmas stockings. You just kind of go, oh, cool. There's M&Ms in here. There's Hershey Kisses. I'm going to take them all. That's what I'm hoping for. Jay Ajayi, if he plays for the Dolphins, is one of the best running backs in the NFL, and I want to see the run defense actually stop somebody. The Redskins didn't really give us somebody to stop. They didn't have a strong cast around Colt McCoy, who is their quarterback. Jay Cutler, whatever you think about him, he is an upgrade from Colt McCoy. I want to see the defense continue to do well. Because the story all preseason long is the defense does great and the offense suffers. Well, then nothing changed from what we thought before all the injuries happened. So that's what I'm looking for. And Tim Williams better show up because I've talked so much about him this offseason. I've written so much about him. The hype train is so totally there for Tim Williams. I want to see Tyus Bowser and Tim Williams in this who can do it better match. I want to see them, anything you can do, I can do better. I want to see a rivalry on the team between two outside linebackers competing for snaps. I want to see Chris Wormley go. I want to see Bronson Kafusi go. And Brett Urban, I want you to do that every single week, all 16 games in the regular season. I want you to earn a starting job because if you play like that, that is awesome. And the most important thing I want to see out of anything, I want to see Quincy Adebayo step up and get the job done and be that big physical wide receiver we've been craving for because I'm tired of everyone passed on Antonio Brown and he's a Steeler. Well, guess what? Everyone passed on Quincy and he's a Raven. So let's make him our diamond in the rough. That's what I want to see. And I want to see Keenan Reynolds actually catch passes, and I want to see Ryan Mallett just be functional. Just be functional. Just do something right. That's all I want to see. And I know it's a lot. Marlon Humphrey, I've been talking him up all season. I want to see him be a baller too. I want to see Jalen Hill pick off where he left off. I want to see a lot tomorrow. I want to see it all because this is a team that can win the Super Bowl if the offense is just mediocre. And I know that sounds kind of like I'm setting the bar low for the offense, but they just need to be mediocre because this defense could be special.
I need to put you in the locker room before the game tomorrow night. I think you'll get the team pretty pumped up.
I'm ready. Let's go.
I'm looking for the guys, like Chris said, who played well in the first preseason game to continue that. Because, I mean, we can see some great performances in one game, but that doesn't mean squat if you can't do it for 2 or 3 more games. So guys like Mazzell, guys like Urban, who really haven't had a chance to kind of showcase their talents, and they look really good in one preseason game. But I want to see that again tomorrow night. And I really want to see how Marlon Humphrey plays. I mean, I think everyone kind of wants to see how he does. I'm interested to see where they'll line him up because there's been talk he wants to play on the outside or on the inside. And with the slot corner open, I think it'll be kind of interesting to see if he's a guy kind of for that spot. But I don't know. I'm just trying to think. I really kind of want to see Josh Woodrum. I know he probably has no chance of probably making the 53-man roster, but just having some kind of spark come in on offense and do that, and you went 4 for 4 with 85 yards and a touchdown. I mean, just as poor as Ryan Mallett played, if he doesn't play well tomorrow night, I think he's got to be in some kind of trouble. There has to be some kind of pressure. Because, I mean, in the end, it's Ryan Mallett. He's a backup quarterback. I mean, the Ravens can always go other options. If Joe Flacco's ready for week 1 of the season, if they don't feel comfortable in Mallett, they can find someone else. But I think a big thing is just to see how Ryan Mallett plays. Because he got the jitters out with the first preseason game, and I think from what I've read, I expect there will be a little bit of Macklin and Wallace out on the field. So I want to see how he gels with them. Mm-hmm. For what we know with Flacco's back, if he's not ready for some reason, which of course we wouldn't be surprised knowing what's happened this offseason, I don't know. I'm just really interested to see what Mallett's going to do because he could very well, in the back of my mind, I think he could be the starting quarterback week 1. So.
Give Woodrum a roster spot. He's better than Thad Lewis. Keep 3 quarterbacks. Woodrum, to me, the fact that we've seen quarterbacks come out of nowhere, Tony Romo, wasn't supposed to be Tony Romo. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. People forget Joe Montana was a 3rd-round pick. I believe that's true. It sounds right. It does. It sounds. I think that's true, but
I'll take your word for it.
I believe it's true. Anyway, the fact is he wasn't a 1st-round pick. You passed on a lot of quarterbacks in NFL history that have ended up doing good things. We don't know what Joe Flacco is going to do, and we know Ryan Mallett sucks. What's the harm of keeping a 3rd quarterback just in case? Because if you're on a 3rd quarterback, you're not expecting him to do anything. What's the harm in keeping Josh Woodrum? Instead of keeping a millionth defensive lineman, keep Josh Woodrum.
Yeah, I agree. Jeff Zrebiak from Baltimore Sun had a good article the other day talking about the Ravens, I guess, lack of wanting to find kind of a backup quarterback. I think he was saying Mallett's kind of in the middle when it comes to salary-wise for quarterbacks, and we've been really lucky with Flacco and his health. So, I mean, at some point they've got to look somewhere. But
they don't need his contract. They don't need Flacco's contract.
No, but what I'm saying is, why not keep a younger guy on? They've been hesitant to do that, but
that's the reason. That's the reason. They don't want someone to end up replacing him. They don't want him to be a Drew Bledsoe. They want him to be a Tom Brady. The problem is he's never going to be a Tom Brady. He's never going to be that guy. He's going to be a guy you can win with, and you're just going to have to deal with the interception to the middle linebacker right in the middle of the field, which we all saw coming. We're just going to have to deal with that because he can win a Super Bowl. He can go on a run in January. That's what we're going to have to deal with. Josh Woodrum should make the team because I don't know jack about Josh Woodrum. I saw him throw a few passes, I think 4 passes the other night. I don't know jack about Josh Woodrum, but I know it's enough that I want to keep seeing Josh Woodrum in the preseason, and I know it's good enough that he's better than Thad Lewis, who wasn't even in the NFL last year. So, and he was better than Ryan Mallett throwing 3.2 yards a pass.
Woodrum's like
harm of keeping Woodrum?
Woodrum's like that guy who comes in the second half when you're watching the preseason game and you're just tired of watching him. He's that guy. He was just bombing passes. It looked like he didn't even care. He was just throwing up 50-yard bombs. Touchdown to Tim White was it was fun to watch. We saw no.
It was a great throw.
Yeah,
it was a great throw. It was an NFL throw. It doesn't mean he can make all the NFL throws. It doesn't mean he can read defense. It doesn't mean jack. But it means he has arm talent. And arm talent, dude, Cam Newton isn't a great thrower, but he does a lot of things right. Cam Newton's accuracy is kind of like Joe Flacco's accuracy. It's like, what the heck am I watching sometimes? But if you have big-bodied receivers and you let him go make a play, he can make it. And I'm not comparing Josh Woodrum to Cam Newton. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is Josh Woodrum has given us enough of a glimpse that we need to keep him on the roster to see if he's anything. Because if he ends up going to, say, the Arizona Cardinals and then eventually replaces Carson Palmer or something like that, we're going to say, man, it's going to be James Harrison all over again. James Harrison was a Raven. We said, bye-bye, James Harrison. He became the Raven killer. I'm tired of not evaluating guys who slip through the cracks correctly. And Josh Woodrum, I'm taking a chance on him whether he's worth it or not.
To me, the tomorrow night, the preseason game against the Dolphins, again, 7 o'clock start, all comes down to balance. We saw last week the Ravens, it was a preseason game, the opening game, they ran a very balanced attack with the run and the pass. Was a struggle all season, and it worked out well. Hopefully they can get the running game going again tonight. It's not going to be easy. Hopefully, if Austin Howard plays, they run every single run play to the right instead of the left. Maybe they'll find some success there. To me, you have to, as you guys alluded to, get Adebayo and other young targets looks. You have to give them chances to make plays and see what you have in them. Consistency on defense, the starting defense in particular, they were dominated last week. Brent Urban was all over the place, and we've barely heard his name except when he blocked the field goal 2 years ago, but I think he's going to be a key contributor this year. They can just have a dominant couple of drives and convince everybody that they are the real deal. I think that'll be very satisfactory. And then my last point that I have on here, Kamalai Correa needs to make an impact. I harped on this last week too. I was excited to watch him get some reps in as somebody that's looking to take Zach Orr's place, and he didn't really do much. Maybe it was just circumstantial, whatever. But he needs to make a few plays in the preseason so that the coaches have confidence putting him in there in the regular season. So before we go, at the end of the Purple-Painted Roundtable podcast on the Charm City Birdwatch Network, presented to you by Ebony Bird and Fansided, final thoughts as we head into Miami tomorrow night. Joe, we'll shoot over to you first.
Anthony Levine, what can he do? He's kind of been a special teams guy, but we saw him move just around everywhere last preseason game. I think I saw a stat that he's played like every position on DP's defense other than like defensive line. So like a great utility guy. I'm really interested to see what he can do with the defense this year. We got depth at safety with him and also at linebacker. So I'm just kind of interested to see how he'll play out on the defense.
I'm the Keenan Reynolds fan club right now. Anyone who wants to jump on, go ahead. I love Keenan Reynolds. He's a great person. And we hear these stories about the bad apples, which is a very small percentage of NFL players. But you know what? Keenan Reynolds is one of the good guys. I want him to be successful, and he's an amazing athlete. And I feel like if you just figured out how to get him the football in the open field, he's going to just light up like a Christmas tree. I love Keenan Reynolds. That's my number one thing. But other than that, man, I just want to see good football. I want to see progress from players we already have seen. I want to see the guys that need to make the team. But I'm going to show you one guy that we haven't even talked about tonight that could be a big factor. Larry Donnell, a 6'6" tight end. And the reason he's a big guy for us is because Larry Donnell had a 63 reception season with New York. Then he kind of fell out of favor. Will Ty got the tight end spot. The tight end spot wasn't that popular with the Giants offense. Fine. But Larry Donnell's a 6'6" target. Flacco's not an accurate quarterback. In the red zone, just throw it up and say, Larry Donnell, get it. That's what he can do. And he can't do everything you want from a tight end. Nick Boyles, you're in the middle of the field guy. But I want to see Larry Donnell make a case for making this team because it's not a guarantee. And I want to see Mazzell or Buck Allen make a case for themselves as running back. I don't care if Buck Allen can catch the football. I know he can do that. I want to see him average more than 2.6 yards carry. And what I want to see from James Hurst is a guy that shows that it doesn't matter that everyone – I'm the butt of every joke. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I'm the guy that you worry about that keeps you up at night. I'm going to show up. I want to see James Hurst say, hey, I can win the starting job on this offensive line because at the end of the day, we might need him to, whether it's at guard or at tackle. Please be at guard because I do not want to see him at tackle. He does keep me up at night, but I just want to see so many things tomorrow. I am jacked up. I've never been more excited for a preseason game, and the reason is this is a special defense. We have so many good pieces to this team. If the offensive line and Joe Flacco just kind of get one semblance of things going right, if the light bulb just comes on, we can win a Super Bowl. The Denver Broncos almost made the playoffs with Trevor Siemian as their quarterback. Flacco does not need to be that good. We just need to play good football around him. So the offensive line just needs to show a semblance of hope, a fraction, a figment of hope. And we should win a damn Super Bowl. And I know it's early, I know it's preseason, but good habits start. Vince Lombardi said, winning is an all-the-time habit. Unfortunately, so is losing. Well, you know what? Let's start winning now. Let's be good in the preseason so we can be great in the regular season. Damn it, I'm pumped. I'm pumped because this defense looks so good. I have not seen I literally dreaded defense for Baltimore Ravens football. And every time you watch a Sunday night football game on NBC, they say, oh, Baltimore Ravens, all about the defense. It hasn't been about the defense since 2011. We won a Super Bowl because Joe Flacco went off, and then he kind of disappeared and went away. It's like, where are you, Joe? Where are you? If you're there, come find me. Dude, I'm telling you, I'm excited because this offense just needs to be okay. And this defense is going to take us to the promised land. And that's why I'm excited. And I'm going to shut up now. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I think you kind of covered it, Chris.
Two things that I've learned. One thing is Anthony Levine is the Ryan Flaherty of the Ravens defense. And then the second thing is I need to hire Chris to be my personal trainer at the gym.
Seriously, Chris, you got to call me at like 5:30 every morning. And get out of bed.
I'm not going to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I don't do that. I will wake up at 7 a.m. and I will be ready to go. but I'll have to have a couple Diet Cokes first.
Well, I hope everyone enjoys the second Ravens preseason game tomorrow again at 7 o'clock on your local NBC station and WBAL News Radio and the Baltimore Ravens website, streaming live and also on their app. Once again, this wraps up another edition of the Purple-Painted Roundtable presented to you by Ebony Bird and Fansided on the Charm City Birdwatch Podcast Network. For Chris and Joe, I'm Jake McDonnell. We'll see you next week on Purple-Painted Roundtable.